Okay, we're live. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Event Industry Facebook Live. This is just getting so much easier and so much more fun. I was on my walk this morning, which I've been doing to kind of keep my sanity, and because we have all this time. And I was just thinking about how excited I was to see your face and to chat with you, and how these little interactions have been so fun to like catch up with people. So welcome, Megan. It's so good to see you.
Great to see you. I agree. Nice to be able to see faces.
It is, and it's just nice to be able to interact and talk about what we've got going on. And I was like, I basically have a coffee date with Megan, and this is going to be so great. I'm going to have you introduce yourself, but I've had the chance to work with you in numerous realms, and you'll probably speak to other times where you were different businesses, but most notably is when you supported me and the team doing Dia de los Muertos last year, and you were imperative to the success, and you are a true warrior in the event planning world. So everybody should have the chance to work with you. You're amazing, and I had the chance on a level to have you support that event. So thank you again for all your support on that. But maybe if you just want to give everybody a background on your experience in event planning.
Okay, sounds good. I can't believe that Dia de los Muertos was as long as it was already at this point. It's crazy.
I know.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name's Megan. I'm with Magical Moments by Megan. My experience started actually back in San Diego about 12 years ago. I got into vendor management and street festivals through a small event planning company that I was interning with at the time. And I ended up working on my first big project that ended up being the biggest project I've ever worked on in my event career, but that was December Nights in Balboa Park. So hopefully some of you out there are familiar with that holiday festival, but basically it's a 2-day event. It's all throughout Balboa Park, and it gathers over 300,000 people within 2 days. I was an intern. I was 20 years old in college, just kind of feeling my way out in events, and I was tasked with managing vendors, which was filling booths, managing an application process, and then all of the logistics that follow that all the way through completion of the event. So
it's 300,000, right? Like 300,000
visitors. Yeah, 300,000.
Not just 3,000, 300,000. That's insane. That is gigantic. Yeah.
To the point that it's an event that impacts traffic, and Caltrans has to be involved, and the whole city and the mayor, and so much planning because it impacts the city on that level. So that was my first event, and that was my first preview into like, here's how events go. And so to me, of course, I just thought that was normal. I'm like, oh yeah, here's all of these crazy things that we do. And come to find out as my career grew that I kind of went in on a high and just got to keep riding that wave as I learned and just grew professionally. So that's kind of
it's like if you hiked Half Dome and you're like, yeah, every hike is like all day. Like
that's my normal. So when someone's like, let's hike Cowles, I'm like, oh, that's just like a little, bump in the road. So.
Totally. Easy peasy.
Oh man. Yeah. So it traces back, that's my roots. It traces back to then. But with that task, obviously came a lot of things like working with the health department, being mindful of just overall event flow and mindful of placements and things like that. Of course, there's numerous vendors that do the same thing. So just really having to just have an overview of that. And so while I was with the event, helped evaluate new areas to be able to position vendors in new places, which obviously was more revenue, but also, helping grow the event to just be able to handle, more visitors, that everyone doesn't have to wait in the same hot dog line and things like that. So I did a lot with tenting and rentals, and our main company that we worked with was Raphael's Party Rentals. So fast forward from the kind of street fair years, I worked on the North Park Festival of Arts, the Boo Parade in the college area, Adams Avenue Street Fair, and Roots Fest on Adams. So a lot of community festivals that I know San Diegans are really familiar with. I know that for practicing right now as we come into the summer season. And that's the time when we're all out there drinking craft beer and all that good stuff. So made my way through some of those things over the years, and then eventually actually landed a position with Raphael's Party Rental. So that's where Jen and I reconnected, and I was a rental provider, so helping Jen with some of her events in terms of, you know, corporate things where we did some, I know, tabletop stuff and linen and things like that. And then other bigger events, like a Halloween event that you had where you needed large scale tenting and walls and lights and all of that good stuff. So we got to work on a big range of projects, I feel like, together in that time, in that position. And so I ended up transferring. I ended up relocating to the OC LA area, which is where I am currently. And started my own business in that transition. So with all of the years of experience I had at that point, it was about 9 or 10 years of experience. I really realized that my favorite part of all of these jobs and all of my involvement in events was coordination, was being able to kind of be the conductor of all of the pieces and see that come to fruition. And so I started my business, Magical Moments by Megan, to do weddings and other social events and kind of that same planner type of stuff where I got to be creative and work on a team and ultimately be able to help people celebrate life moments like weddings and birthdays and all of that stuff, because, you know, memories, we get to keep memories. And so we just want people to be able to experience that and keep that with them. So that's kind of been the journey from then until now. And of course, last year, while I was just trying to grow the business, Jen and I reconnected. And she had this great opportunity for vendors. And even for me, you know, it had been a while, but obviously I was deep rooted in that skill and was able to do that for many years. So
I was not deep rooted in that skill. I'm just going to put that out there and own it, that I was not extremely deep rooted. Experience. I'm really skilled at organizing a lot of details. But yeah, I think I came to you and I was like, I'm gonna need some help.
Oh my gosh. Well, you did amazing. But I do remember our first coffee turned into like 2 hours and you had pages of notes. So yeah, that was super fun. And I'm glad, you know, we were able to work on that in a totally different capacity from all the other types of events that we'd worked on together. And I think you and your team did a great job. And I was really happy to be part of that and just get to, you know, re-experience street festivals and vendors after a few years of not having as been plugged in that, you know, my roots. So that was fun.
It is nice to kind of mix it up too. I mean, I think I like doing the festival experience is really great for a multitude of reasons, but also it was really nice, you know, to do, I like doing fun social things and then mixing it with like corporate conference things. And I think it keeps us on our toes and I don't know, just keeps things fresh. And another point to just the conversation of like jumping into something and not knowing. I think a lot of us take on new roles and don't know firsthand how to do that. And I think we rely on our relationships like we have to mentor each other. And I think that can be incredibly valuable. And it's not like anybody goes into it completely knowing out of the womb how to do a street festival. You know, you got to start from somewhere. You got to have someone give you some guidance and whatever, if you're doing weddings or you're doing catering or vendor, you know, venue management, whatever you're jumping into. So yeah. Well, you have had a pretty robust career thus far. What are you working on right now? What have you got? I know everything for everybody is on hold. But maybe what are some of the stuff that you're working on right now?
Yeah, well, so like I said, you know, with Magical Moments by Megan kind of shifted a little bit. So primarily working on weddings and smaller social events. So we were lucky enough that we had a really big wedding in February that we were able to do. So we were thankful for that. But right now, just working on postponement. So, you know, working with our couples that have already signed with us to make sure that they just feel supported and you know, comfortable with the change in things. So just being there to support my couples with having to change dates and just really decide on how far we're postponing. And then being mindful of all of the new things that we're going to start, you know, rolling in, just kind of like safety and sanitation and things like that when it comes to our setup and our involvement with our clients. So that's something we're trying to adjust to, but we're also excited about working on kind of marketing micro weddings, and knowing that the industry is pushing in a different direction. Obviously, things like this where, virtual events are happening as well. But working with a team that's specifically focusing on live streaming weddings, for a certain amount. And so we're working with our partners. We're using our relationships to just build out some easy packages for our couples. Planning is going to be looking a lot different in terms of being able to plan far out. And there's a lot of couples that want to do that sooner rather than later. And so we're finding ways to be creative and just make it really easy for the client to still be able to celebrate what they want to celebrate, even though it just looks a little different. So something we've been working on, like I said, just different relationships with like our cake baker, florals, things like that, where you can just get all of that in one and be able to still
basically have it packaged. So you just say like, okay, I want that micro wedding package, and you can just it's all kind of pre-baked, if you will.
Exactly. Just kind of doing some of the legwork, obviously utilizing as like you said, as a planner, or in the industry in general, you have these relationships, and regardless, I would be referring business, but in this case, kind of already doing that legwork and figuring out, okay, what would you do for this or this size, and offering it to the client in a different way that's a little more digestible than full wedding planning, where they're like, here's all the million options and I want this and that, but my budget's this and that. So kind of coming at it from a different perspective and just saying, here's a number, here's what it comes with. If you like it, cool, it's a good fit, and you still get to have that experience and do what you want to do. And of course, an officiant and getting the marriage license taken care of and all of those important details, and just having that, again, just kind of easy to do, so that they don't feel like they're missing out on getting to have the big wedding experience.
Totally. And I could see that would be an asset from the vendor side, and we're going to dive in a little bit more to like vendor management and why that would be incredibly helpful to kind of streamline communication. As you were saying, of like, we don't have like, all this money to work with. We really need to kind of prepackage and not go back and forth of like, hey, how about this? Or what about this? And I know when people have like lean staffs right now, vendors do, streamlining any of that is really great. And then also from the client side of things, of just kind of understanding, okay, well, maybe they have had a date and they need to reschedule it. What are some cost things that they need to look at up front, and like, can they make an evaluation of if that's feasible, and not so overwhelming of like, okay, now I've got to start all over from the planning and think about this and this and this and all these little things. I think the more that we can prepackage and make it easier for clients and our vendors, I think is the asset that we can build for both parties. Is this something that you guys are doing and have on your website of like what these packages entail for the micro weddings, or are you guys kind of just going through inquiries on it?
Still building all of that out right now. So not quite on the website. It will be up eventually once we, have all of the right people locked in. But it is in the works. Absolutely.
Awesome. With this vendor management, I think that there is the pre-pandemic COVID element of like how we manage relationships, and now all of a sudden we're in like a totally different realm. For new planners, or I don't know, even just seasoned planners, do you have like some guidelines, since you've been on both sides of the fence here as a vendor and now as a planner, of like some do's and don'ts that kind of help both parties work together and make sure that everybody gets to the event and they feel like, this has been, a really seamless kind of great experience to working together?
Yeah. I guess, looking back and kind of speaking more to the street fair vendor management, side of things, definitely communication. So, there are vendors that are great at that, and there's vendors that aren't. So I guess speaking to the planner side of things, if I over communicate and if I make my emails as simple as possible, or if I give as much step-by-step information as possible, I'm more likely to get a cooperative vendor, and it makes it easier on the overall process of things to get the event going and making sure that everybody's locked in. So, one of the bigger challenges of vendor management in street fairs is essentially you are working with hundreds of people, and you're responsible of making that look cohesive and making sure that they're all in the right tent and they're all in the right space and that they load in from the right location. And so there's just a lot of those logistics in terms of making sure that they have that information. Do they know where they're loading in? Do they know where they're coming in off the freeway? Do they know which booth that they're going to at the end of the day? And so in that realm, you know, because there are so many voices, it's easy for vendors to kind of change things up. Well, I thought I was here, but I'm supposed to be here. And so on the planner side, just really making sure that all the information is accurate and that your team has all the correct information, so that when it comes to load in and it comes to executing the event, that everything is in place, that we've already thought about who goes where, how they get there, why they need to be there, you know, in terms of power access, or if they're food vendors, they need access to sinks and bathrooms and things like that. So definitely just the communication process, having good record keeping, spreadsheets, my favorite, of just tracking all the information.
Yeah, no, and I think, yeah, those are all like really good points of just being like over communicating, of like, per my last email, just another friendly reminder. And just spelling out all those details of every little thing that people can think of, because also from the vendor side of things, or when you don't have all those details and you're like, oh wait, where am I supposed to park? Like if you're bringing something or you're delivering something and the planner hasn't thought through, okay, this is going to be the easiest path for our vendors to bring in stuff. And you might think, oh, well, they've been here before because everybody's been to the Manchester Grand Hyatt, so they should know just what to do. And you can't just assume that anybody knows any of that. And it's better just to like spell out everything in advance for everybody, including every little tiny detail, and do it a couple times just to make sure that you've got everything right. Yeah. Aside from your spreadsheets, which are gorgeous, I can attest to, so thorough. Are there other tools that you utilize to organize your vendors?
Let's see. I mean, back when I was doing vendors in 2008, when I first started, my processes were a lot different. Google Drive, you know, Dropbox was still kind of newer, and Google Drive wasn't as accessible and shareable, you know, for people. So I think that it looks a little different now. I was able to utilize some of those tools when we did Dia de los Muertos. But I would just say folders, just, you know, really keeping everything organized, because I know that there are client management systems and other programs that probably would be helpful in this, you know, at this time. But for me, you know, looking at vendors from street festivals, you have to maintain a lot of information. So not only their application and their personal power and, you know, vendor needs. For example, food vendors need extra space compared to someone that's just selling t-shirts. And so keeping track of all that information, in addition to seller's permits and insurance and health permits and just a lot of things that attach to each vendor. So if you think that you're working with 100 vendors, there's 3 things you need from every vendor. That's 300 sheets of paper or whatever it might be that you need to manage. So yeah, aside from tracking that in the spreadsheet, having a good system to make sure you have those documents to refer back to and be able to produce if anyone were to request them in terms of the formal event process. So that's something, again, I know that there are probably better systems, but things like Google Drive, Dropbox have been really helpful for me. And then even on this end, in terms of weddings and then managing vendors for, you know, social events and things like that, the same thing, having a folder where my client can easily upload their contracts and I can review, and then vice versa, share those with the vendors, any, you know, relevant information, being able to send a centralized link instead of having to send individual emails or copy everyone and get lost in, you know, conversations that tend to happen in group emails, just really making it accessible for them. So those are the types of programs that I typically use to just organize all the information.
Yeah, I I mean, and to speak to like the vendor management side of things from the festival, and we utilize Event Hub, which is an online tool, and I'll link to it. I know there's a lot of people that are wedding planners this wouldn't be applicable to. They don't have to manage like 100 vendors or think about 10 by 10 tents.
Sure.
It's definitely a different world to embark on. And I mean, I think Google Drive can definitely be an asset. But once you got into the framework and learning the Event Hub tool, I think it was pretty valuable in terms of like other vendors were able to find it online. The payment processing stuff ended up working out pretty well. Just reporting and stuff that it could generate. So if there's anybody watching that kind of is in that sphere and looking for an online tool that's a little bit more robust and you have a ton of vendors to manage, I would definitely recommend that. And I don't know if we're going to be planning street festivals anytime soon, but maybe for next year, who knows?
Well, and I know that you also do corporate and meetings and things like that. So anyone out there that might be planning a trade show or any other sort of, symposium or even, colleges that have like tabling and things like that. Event Hub was a great system to be able to, just have a Dropbox, have a drop-down menu and just say, I am this vendor, I select this space, and this is what that costs. I did like that program, and we did learn a lot in that, I think, in Event Hub to be able to try to manage it in a different way. I live in my own world with my like kind of archaic system, but I think I remember telling you that this is the way of the future. And it's great that there are systems out there that are flexible and customizable for whatever your event might look like. And if you are dealing with vendors, I would say, anywhere past 30, 40, 50 vendors, that it is helpful to have a separate system. Of course, something that's web-based that can kind of centralize that information so you can share it across your team. As opposed to having just folders on your computer, of course, that aren't shareable. So that was a great system. I do recommend it to anyone doing street fairs or meetings or trade shows or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, we did try to learn it in like 5 seconds. So that probably was...
That was probably just a little part of it, but
it might have something to do. I mean, totally unrelated or not. But yeah, I mean, I was looking forward to utilizing it this year, and I think it's still kind of to be determined on like what's going to happen in the world of festivals because it's so large scale. I think the consensus, like you mentioned, the micro weddings, talking with the catering company last week, I think a lot of people are, really just wanting to hedge their bets pretty safely with what might be more feasible and safe too. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to be part of planning something that ends up, not being a safe experience for the community or your clients
and family. Yeah,
their friends and family and everything else. So I think it's a concern for everybody's safety and well-being that's at the forefront of our mind. And giant festivals like that, or even December Nights, it's been part of San Diego for, I mean, how long has that been around? I mean, when you worked with them, was it December Nights or was Christmas on the Prado at that point?
It was already December Nights when I was working on it. So I don't remember what year it turned over, but it was sometime in I think the early 2000s maybe that it kind of changed names. But yeah, I mean, our industry as a whole, just live events, group gatherings, there's a lot to be talked about and a lot to be learned, and I think that's part of why we love the event industry is there's always things to learn. Things are always changing. Every event is different, even if it's the same client year after year, you're not always planning the same event. So I think that we're good at rolling with the punches and we're good at adapting and just finding what works best. And, I'm seeing that like we're all creatives, and I'm seeing that in the industry with people that I talk to, that there's just new ideas and there's new ways to look at things and just really decide what's important, and I think that really comes down to which festivals will make it, which ones are going to be able to come back from that because it's a part of the city. It's a part of, their memories, that it's something that people really want. So I think that we'll really see those ones start to kind of stick out in creative ways as we start to figure out what all of this looks like for events.
That's a good point. I mean, yeah, some of them are so ingrained in the community. I've lived in San Diego now almost 20 years with a short stint living in San Francisco, but yeah, moved to San Diego over 20 years ago. And I have so many memories of going to a lot of these festivals, including when it was called Christmas on the Prado, and then it turned into December nights, and there was like uproar and like support, and it totally made sense. But it's part of the city, it's part of our community, and yeah, I think I think it'll be nice when it does come back, and there'll be some rejoicing. But there's going to be ones that probably won't make it, and that's definitely sad too. Okay. Is there anything that you are working on now in your business that you want to highlight? That you want to kind of? I know you have a new partnership, and I would love to kind of hear more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, part of our conversation today is just relationships and always building those and being mindful of the old ones and things like that. So when I relocated, it was a little hard for me because all my relationships were in San Diego. And so a lot of, my business and trying to just grow it was still traveling back and forth. And so when I was here, since I've been here in the OC, I've been trying to plant new roots and just build new relationships. And so as luck would have it, I was working part-time at a restaurant in my transition and connected with a great girl. And she, we just connected in terms of personality, just kind of being driven, and also kind of being in our 30s in the restaurant industry as we were trying to figure out our passion. And, she heard about my business and she heard about what I was, pursuing, and she was inspired to start floral classes. And so she kind of started doing floral. We did a work anniversary party. So we worked at a new restaurant, and it had been a 1 year that we had been open. And so, we collaborated and kind of made the outdoor picnic turn into like an event experience for our coworkers. And, I was able to see her work, and I was blown away. I was like, you just started taking floral classes, like your work is that like a seasoned professional. And so I just saw that she's really gifted, and, just it took her a while to figure out that that was what she loved. And so I wanted to support that. I want to support my fellow women business owners and creatives and things. And so I told her florals aren't a specialty of mine. I am for sure more on the logistics and kind of the organizational side of things, but weddings and social events, that's another huge component. And of course they work together. And so a lot of planners are florists and just have both talents. And for me, I saw an opportunity. I saw an opportunity to rather develop a relationship and utilize her skills. And same as you were like, I don't need to learn vendors. I know someone that can do that for me. So,
well, I just knew I didn't have time. I just knew I did not have time I was like, you could figure almost anything out or like do enough research or whatever. But I was like, I didn't get brought on board to take that on that event until like the last minute. And I was like, I don't have time to figure this out. Like I would need like 5 more coffee dates with you to even like scratch the surface. I'm like, we don't have that kind of time.
No, that's true. Same. I wanted to get into weddings. I wanted to get into things fast here in OC. And so, so I brought her on, basically just said, let's do some styled shoots. Let's just collaborate on a couple things after that first anniversary party. And so we just started doing projects together, and officially we have a partnership. It is on our website. Her company's name is Poppy Rose Floral Co. Her name is Kim. And actually, right when we started partnering together, she got pregnant. So she had her baby just this last year. We did a styled shoot in November. She could barely bend over to help me with florals and things like that because she had a belly. But baby Sloan was born at the end of last year. And so she's just taken a little bit of time to be with the baby, but she got to do some Mother's Day florals, did a little bit on Valentine's Day. The wedding I mentioned we did in February, we did together. And then a few of the weddings that we have booked through this year is also in partnership. So, the client tries to look for a planner first typically, and that's just an added service that I offer through Kim. And then, of course, under her company name, she does things like Mother's Day florals and stuff like that, where I'm able to cross promote and just support her and her creativity. But that's been a really good partnership, and we're excited, for the clients we have upcoming and just continuing to grow together as professionals, business owners, and just as creatives in the industry.
And I mean, wouldn't you say, now that you've gone the track of being an entrepreneur by yourself for a few years and now you have a partner, isn't it a relief to just have somebody else? Like
100%.
Like the solo entrepreneur role life path is rough. Like it is not for the faint of heart. And it takes pushing yourself when you want to quit like 1,000,000,000 times. And it's just nice having someone that can, bounce ideas off of. And I speak to this because I started a partnership with To Be Design and Encore Entertainment to do Virtual Event Collective, or what we're also calling VEC. And this has been going for about a month now that we had this idea to join forces, and it has been great to think of solutions for virtual events and be able to kind of service clients that we had to reimagine their event, or we're working on a high school graduation, which would have never been a client of mine. We've been a client of Encore Entertainment for sure, but they would have never really needed my services. And so it's just great to work with different kind of clients, but it's also just been this, especially during this time, to have like a partnership or have other, just have that support of someone that's also wearing an entrepreneur hat to help support you.
Yes.
It just feels like, okay, you can do it. Even when you have like doubt or like, how is this going to work? And what are we going to do next? At least you have some other person that like, okay, they can be positive when you're like, I don't have it today.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. It's been pivotal to being able to, keep the business afloat over the last year plus. And even just moving, for me, like it was a really big life transition to start a business in the midst of restarting my life and, just figuring that out. It's helpful to have someone else to support you, because when I worked in different places, you kind of overlook your coworkers and you tend to just be like, oh, my coworkers, but that is your support system. And so when you go the entrepreneur route, it's harder to not just have those people built in that are sitting next to you to give you an example or to support you when you're like, this program's help, driving me nuts or whatever it might be. So it has been great to have another just voice in my head and just someone, like you said, to bounce things off of, and also to be inspired by. I think we just vibe off of each other, and it's perfect. Our personalities intersect in all the right ways. All of the things that are her skills are not mine, and vice versa. And we find each other, ourselves thanking each other all the time. Like, I'm so glad this is your gift. Like, it's so good to work together, because I don't think that way, and I never would have thought of that, or envisioned that. And so it's been great to work closely with her, and even you and even other just event pros and just colleagues throughout the years, that really, when you have those conversations, you're just re-inspired and you just are able to have a new perspective on things, because there's no way I can have every perspective just myself. So really needing those people.
I can I just attest to everything you just said. It's and maybe this is more of the norm too. I mean, obviously there's bigger entities like in the sphere that have, bigger rental companies or bigger DMC companies or bigger planners or wedding companies or whatever. But not to say that everybody's rushing out to do this, but maybe this is like more of a new norm, just to ensure that you don't have to completely close your business. You can reimagine it by like joining forces with another service so you can complement, or find that yin to your yang. I know I'm definitely not more the creative and more like logistics. Like, give me a spreadsheet and 1,000 details to organize. But even when I had signed
to put this flower, and I have to question it.
No, and I totally have a funny story. So I did 2 years ago, I did Away with Words. I did their gala, and they're one of my favorite clients. I love them so much. I'm like sad that they're not doing their event this year. They're an NPR show, and I love the show, and they're one of the best clients to work with. I couldn't say more great things about them. So I tried to save them money by saying I would do their florals. And I don't know what I was thinking. It was like caught me in a moment. I was like, yeah, I could totally like just do a little something. And I went and bought all the flowers, and I was like, oh my God, I still have all this other stuff to do. Plus I have no idea. Like I just I knew how to buy the right flowers. And so I ended up having my husband, Ashley, he was the florist. And he was really good at it. Thank God. Because it was like the night before the event. I'm like, oh my God, what did I sign myself up for? But I think that's what you do when you're an entrepreneur. You like say yes to things, and then you figure it out. Yeah, you just figure it out. You're like, hopefully we'll just, it'll all come together. No problem.
The show must go on.
Okay, so every week I always do a shout out to local businesses, and I'd love to highlight some entities that are in your world in the OC. Obviously, I am in a bubble in San Diego, literally right now. So I'll do a shout out in a second, but I'd love to give you an opportunity to maybe talk about any vendors or partners or anybody that you want to kind of highlight that's doing some work right now that is want to give a high five to.
Yeah, so I have a friend, a relationship I've developed over just the last year of being out here, and she is a wedding photographer. Her name's Lauren with Playful Soul Photography, and right when the pandemic happened, she's a similar spirit to me where she just is ambitious and creative and just wants to stay busy. And so she was like, you know what, I have a sewing machine, and I have this Cricut, and I have, the means to kind of make some masks. And so she started doing that, and quickly, had different pattern options and was being creative in how she was designing them. And so very quickly turned, kind of pivoted her business to be able to start offering masks just to other wedding professionals, just friends and people that were like, hey, I need a mask when I go to the store, and I don't really just want to wear this t-shirt over my face. And so it kind of started like that, but she quickly evolved. And so she's offering really chic looking masks now, various sizes, various colors, patterns, things like that. So sequins and beaded and just different things like that where, you can feel beautiful in what you're wearing. And I think that's been I know for me, it's been a hard transition in this post-pandemic world where we don't get to see each other's smiling faces, and so it's nice that if you're not just wearing a black t-shirt or just like a surgical mask on your face, that you can feel good in it. So she's making these beautiful masks. They have a pocket. It's a double layer, and it has a pocket to have a filter. So you do have that added layer of protection. And then she started doing couple masks, bride and groom masks. So there's like a great overlay mask for a bride, and then there's a groom's one that's like satin, and there's one that has a little baby bow tie. So just really cute and creative. I'm actually going to a like city hall wedding later today in Anaheim. My cousin's getting married, so I gifted her the bride and groom set of masks so that they can feel cute and just kind of feel like they got to put on something special when they go to sign their marriage license today. So
I'll link to that too, for sure. That's a great thing that they're doing. And I'd love to kind of see. Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. My mom made me a couple, and they're cute. They're a lot better than the surgical mask that I was wearing before. So
yeah, that's great. I'm so amazed by finding out how many people can sew and have all these great ideas. And
that's definitely not me either
in these times. Yeah. But I can always send you their handles and their links offline when we're done if you want to link those up.
Yeah, I definitely will. That would be great. One shout I just want to give is to Junior League of San Diego. I've been a member now 4 years, I think. It's been 4 years, but went to some of their fun events before. Typically right now they would have had their annual food and wine festival on the Cove, and obviously they're not able to do that, and they've had to cancel a number of their fundraising events. So they've come up with an online auction, and that just went live, and so people can help support and get some really fun, cool stuff at the same time. So there's a Junior League of San Diego that I wanted to give a shout out to. And then also to one of my partners here at VC, I mentioned him a few minutes ago, or mentioned Encore Entertainment, but Armando, he is just working with him so much and seeing how much he helps the community. He is an MPI member, and he is gathered us all together to help support MPI San Diego's gala in June. So we're going to be hosting that at VEC Studio, and we're doing that completely to support them and make sure that they can still have a gala, still have the experience, still engage the members. And Armando is very generous with his time and his expertise, and just he's an inspiration for sure. To kind of speak back to what you're saying is that, like, I get really inspired by him of how much he gives out to the community for sure. So yeah, shout out to Armando. Another, just one more quick note for everybody. We had a great workshop yesterday. It was like Canva, designing Canva for entrepreneurs and event planners. I went over like how to do your own social media and do your own flyers or postcards or even Instagram stories. It was really cool. So thank you to everyone that attended the workshop. It actually was a lot of fun to teach. And also kind of in the spirit of all the organization that I love to do, I put together some of my favorite templates and tools that I've created to manage vendors and all the event stuff. So we've got some business templates that are available on the website now. For those of you that are the more creative don't know where to start with like a spreadsheet, that's definitely where my world and where my head likes to go. So those are excited to share those with everybody now too. So yeah, a lot of good stuff. All right, Megan, it was so great to see you. Thank you so much for taking time out this morning. Have so much fun at the wedding this afternoon. And I hope we can catch up again soon and have coffee in person. And
I know, I can't wait. Well, thank you for having me. It's been super great. And of course, just lovely to see your face, and happy to see all the things you're doing to stay engaged. So I will continue to stay tuned and follow along.
Please do. Okay, be well.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.